A foot or more of snow may not be enough to end Colorado's fire season.
It's gut-wrenching that it's all gone.
The snow soaked the fires, but also prevented firefighters from working the front lines.
The snow's coming down pretty heavy, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing.
After one more night of cold temperatures, Colorado is likely to warm up, and these fires could wind up growing in the process.
Though this is exactly what we needed, it may not be enough.
The final tally, at least half a foot of snow in Granby, more than a foot of snow in Estes Park. Enough to slow down the two largest wildfires in Colorado history.
We're all hoping the snowfall will end the fire threat. Cameron Peak Fire has burned 208,000 acres. The East Troublesome Fire, 192,000 acres. And we still don't know how many homes were lost in all this. We do know hundreds of people are under evacuation orders waiting for some good news from the front lines. And tonight, Denver7 continues to provide team coverage of this historic fire season.
And we begin with Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson, who's tracking changing conditions tonight. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Ann and Shannon. Great news as far as the numbers on the snow, with 1.5 feet up on Cameron Pass and Rocky Mountain National Park hitting 15 inches of snow. You can see some good numbers elsewhere along the Front Range. Snow is pretty much done falling, not the temperatures. It is cold out there currently. 9 at Allens Park and Ward and Berthoud Pass at the moment, just in the teens in the Denver area. There's just a little bit of snow lingering now. Most of it has dropped down to the south. Over the southeast corner of the state, that's where the warnings and advisories continue for early tonight. As far as our lows overnight, look at these numbers. Record cold, 2 degrees in Denver, 0 for Greeley, Lyman 2 up at Fort Collins, and at Craig and Steamboat well below 0. But it is going to warm up gradually this week, warmer than average conditions coming up on the 10-day forecast. And as far as precipitation, we go back to drier than average conditions once again. So it's been some relief. But as you say, it may not have been enough.
All right, Mike, thank you. Some people living along the east side of Highway 34 in Grand Lake were allowed to return home today. People on the west side remain under an evacuation order. Fires are still active in that area. And along the southern edge of the fire, the snow helped protect the towns of Granby and Hot Sulphur Springs.
Denver7's Russell Haythorne joins us tonight from Granby. Russell?
Yeah, Shannon, this is certainly good news. Check it out. It's a lot different than what it looked like at 4 o'clock. This was the roadblock here on Highway 34 in between Granby and Grand Lake, but the Sheriff's Department lifting that roadblock just about a half hour ago, and now there are hundreds of people who live in and around Grand Lake who are now headed home for the first time since last Wednesday. The snow up here has been tremendous in terms of the firefighting efforts. And again, many are just grateful they now have a home to return to. We have some video to show you from earlier. Laura and Tom Kuzno live about 5 miles south of Grand Lake. They loaded up their truck and got out as fast as they could last Wednesday. That's when the fire exploded in growth from 20,000 acres to more than 100,000 acres. Obviously for them and hundreds of others, it's just a relief to get to go home today.
We haven't really talked to a lot of people because we're over there at my brother's, but no, everybody's pretty devastated over this.
We're ready to pitch in and help anybody with what they need. You know, that's our community, that's what we do, and that's what we're ready to get back up there and help people out.
And there will be many in need because unfortunately not everyone's home was spared. In fact, we talked to a couple who lost their home, which sits just in between Granby and Grand Lake on the west side of Highway 34. That's where many of the homes that were lost went up in flames. And we'll hear from them coming up on Denver7 at 6. For now, we're live in Grand County where the roadblock has finally been lifted after 5 days, and the snow definitely a benefit to fighting these fires. We'll toss it back to you.
All right, the snow looks awfully good. Russell, thanks a lot. The East Troublesome Fire and Cameron Peak Fire still the top priorities for fire crews in Colorado, and we did not see significant growth in any of the other fires burning the state over the weekend. There are nearly 4,000 total firefighters working to protect our state and get all these fires under control.
Working so hard. You know, it's hard to imagine what few precious items you'd pack if you were told to evacuate your home. For many families, those possessions are now their only ones.
Denver7's Megan Lopez introduces us to a woman who lost her home and her livelihood in the fire.
So here's my barn, here's my hay shed, and here's my house.
Life can change in an instant.
This was my cabin that I was remodeling.
One moment, Shawn Bruton was putting the finishing touches on her newly remodeled kitchen.
We had gotten all the supplies to come home and start painting, and
The next moment, she was picking a few precious possessions and evacuating her home,
we gathered up all that we could.
leaving behind an estate her late husband built by hand.
I truly thought that I was going to come back to my house.
But this week, Shawn, like so many others, found out the worst.
All the 8 houses in the complex burned, as well as my ranch house. You just can't imagine how that feels, because my whole life was in that house.
Shawn was able to save her horse and 2 alpacas. They're being cared for at the Colorado Horse Park in Parker.
I was able to see these photos.
These photo albums of her son were also packed, but so many other priceless possessions were lost, along with her late husband's dream.
That was, the whole ranch was his work, and all of those houses were hand created. It's gut-wrenching that it's all gone.
The wildfire also consumed a major part of her livelihood.
I had my little cabin that was an Airbnb cabin, and it was a very good income source.
Still, Shawn's eager to get back home
I will rebuild.
and says this community is resilient.
I believe that they're going to jump in there and they're going to help each other and, bring it back.
Megan Lopez, Denver7.
What a loss. And since last week, you have helped Denver7 Gives raise more than $100,000 to give to those impacted by these Colorado wildfires. Of course, we are still looking to lend an even bigger hand.
So you can call 303-777-7492, and somebody from this lovely group of volunteers will accept your call and your donation. Also, I want to mention that Townsend Retirement Planning is matching at least the first $5,000 donated today, and all of the money will go directly to those who need it. And our thanks to our partners also in the United Way of Larimer County and the Grand Foundation's Grand County Wildfire Emergency Fund, as well as the Community Foundation of Boulder County. So write this down, 303-777-7492. Those volunteers will be there until 7 o'clock tonight.
Now to Washington, D.C. tonight. The U.S. Senate is poised to confirm a new Supreme Court justice.
All right, we have a live look at the Senate floor right now. Chuck Schumer said, this is a quote, he just said this, Republicans lighting their credibility on fire. That is from the Democratic leader there in the Senate. According to early reports, Barrett's confirmation will be split along party lines, no surprise. All Dems opposed and nearly all Republicans in favor. Now, we are told that Susan Collins is expected to be the only Republican to vote no.
And, no justice has ever been confirmed this close to Election Day. Both of Colorado senators weighed in on the Barrett nomination during 30 hours of Senate testimony. Democrat Michael Bennet said Sunday this confirmation process, this is a quote, has always been a demonstration of what the majority can get away with, how they can exercise their power in order to entrench their power. While Republican Cory Gardner said this morning he supports Barrett as a woman of principle.
If you could take the politics out of the place, she would probably have a unanimous vote. Unfortunately, the politicization of this nomination is going to prevent that.
We'll be monitoring this developing story throughout the night, and if Barrett is confirmed at any point tonight, we'll bring you the news on the Denver7 app for your streaming device. Just download Denver7 for your Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire.
The presidential candidates are taking opposite approaches to the final week before Election Day. We'll check in with the president and his challenger next.
Plus, an unprecedented surge in virus cases leads to tighter restrictions for some Colorado counties. Some of your favorite businesses could be affected.